Hi, you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Woo!
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? How many times have I told you on this channel, you can lock the truth up, throw away the key. That truth is going to find a way to break free. And that happens all the time in the world that we live in. You never know where the truth is going to come from, but it always ends up leaking out somewhere. And today, some of that truth leaked out from the grand wizard of the decafs, Larry Merchant, who made his return on one of the biggest stages to do an interview, which is with PBC. Which is extremely ironic because we all know Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley, they were never big fans of Al Haymon in the PBC series, just like the majority of old media. But now, since Al Haymon in the PBC series has actually replaced HBO as being the most dominant entity in the sport of boxing, now a lot of these type of guys are actually forced to do interviews on PBC to cover PBC fights. And I say that because I'm including a lot of the media members that were refusing to cover PBC fights, even when PBC was sending them emails and inviting them to cover a PBC event. They still refused to do it back in 2015 and 2016 when they were still praying for the PBC demise. But once again, now that PBC is the biggest thing in boxing in America, now you have reporters like Steve Kim and other reporters. Steve Kim stayed attacking PBC for at least a whole year on his Twitter account. He even went so far as to say, and it's still up, he went so far as to say, PBC, they sent me an invitation to cover a fight. I sent that straight to my spam folder. This is what he said on his Twitter account. All of this stuff was sent to me. And now today, Steve Kim, the man that damn near promised he wouldn't cover a PBC event, is now covering all of the big PBC events. And now you have Larry Merchant doing an interview on PBC, which leads me to what he said in this interview. Oh man, this is some good shit right here. So he starts the interview off saying he's been smiling ever since this fight, meaning he's celebrating Tyson Fury's win. So of course he talked about Tyson Fury, he talked about Deontay Wilder. Sean Porter, he asked Larry Merchant, what do you think about boxing coming back to free TV, being on Fox and mainstream? And Larry Merchant, he kind of came back with a vague answer. You could clearly tell he didn't want to end up giving PBC too much credit. So he just said, hey, you know, it's good, but we don't know if it's going to last. And then Sean Porter, he asked him, he said, but is it good for the sport of boxing? And Larry Merchant, he said, you mean Tyson Fury beating Wilder? And Sean was like, no, fights being brought back to free TV. And he was like, oh, so then he went ahead and he answered Sean's question. Now, towards the end of the interview, they allowed Larry Merchant to give his final thoughts like he would do when he was on HBO. And right when he starts, he puts this big smile on his face and he said, Tyson Fury, he was singing Bye Bye American Pie after the win. And then he said, the question is Deontay Wilder the last American, and then he says, pardon my expression, black hope in the heavyweight division? And then of course he tries to clean it up by explaining, oh, because you know, the majority of great black heavyweights have been black from the South, et cetera, et cetera. But he says, that's the question right now. And then we're gonna find out when Deontay Wilder returns in the third fight. Now, before I respond to what he said and give you guys the full definition and educate a lot of you guys on where that term, the Great White Hope, came from, before I do that, let me go ahead and translate what Larry Merchant was really trying to say when he asked if Deontay Wilder is the last black hope in the heavyweight division. What he was indirectly saying is this win right here is for the 3,000 black fighters that I had to watch beat white guys and non-black guys since I've been covering the sport. This is my celebration now. This one win that Tyson Fury got, and that's the reason why I've been smiling ever since. That's what he was saying. And you know what's so crazy about this is obviously Larry Merchant is not even British. He's not from England, he's from America. But yet he says, is Deontay Wilder the last black hope, instead of saying, is he the last American hope? Even Tyson Fury himself didn't inject race when he was singing Bye Bye American Pie. Tyson Fury, he was saying, we beat America. But Larry Merchant is saying, we, white people, beat the black guy. That's what Larry is saying, damn a country. I don't give a damn what country you come from. If you could beat these black bastards over here, I'm with you. Listen, guys, Larry Merchant has been covering boxing forever. He's like 80 years old. Do you know he's never said, is this white guy the last white hope? And the funny thing is, quite frankly, it would make more sense if you're going to ask a question like that, if you're going to inject race that way, it would make more sense to ask that about a white fighter when he's in a division that may be dominated by blacks and Latinos and others, right? You would think he would have said that in a scenario like that, but he only said that in this situation. I didn't hear him say that when Jerry Cooney was about to fight Larry Holmes. I didn't hear him say that when Kelly Pavlik was about to fight Bernard Hopkins. And the list goes on and on and on. He never said it. Now, this is so crazy because I just told you guys like 2 days ago on a video I made about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. I think we were talking about the pay-per-view numbers, and I was talking about how the numbers more than doubled. Regardless if people think those are like real good numbers, the fact that the numbers more than doubled, it proves that fans had way more interest in the rematch. And I told you, why is it they have more of an interest? Because race sells. And if you have a white guy that had a chance of beating a black guy, a black champion in Deontay Wilder, which a lot of people believe that he won the first fight, now you have all of these type of fans telling their friends, there's a white guy and he beat the black guy. They didn't give it to him, but he beat the black guy, and now they're having a rematch. So now you got way more white and non-black fans, because it's not just white, it's non-black fans. Because honestly, if you look at my comment section and other people's comment section, you'll see that Mexican fans, they've been actually celebrating Tyson Fury's win more than white people from the UK have been, or even white people from the States. So my point is, I've told you guys, when it comes to America, boxing is based on race, nationality, and pride. It's only like that in this country because it's not like that in the UK. In the UK, they support Anthony Joshua just as much as they support Tyson Fury, right? They support Derek Chisora just as much as they support David Price. But when their own countryman fights against a fighter from another country, man, they all come together. They don't care what that fighter's skin tone is. If he's black, white, or in between, they go all in supporting their country against the other country. It's the complete opposite in America. Larry Merchant, he's sitting there saying, I've been smiling ever since. How many times have you ever, or do you think you would ever hear a Filipino analyst after Manny Pacquiao lost to some black guy or just someone who's not from the Philippines? He just loses. And that analyst, he says, man, I've been smiling ever since Manny Pacquiao lost. Or some analyst in Mexico. You think they would say that after Canelo loses to someone from a different country? Oh man, ever since that Canelo Demetrius Andrade fight, I've been smiling ever since. Come on, we know what time it is. So to all you non-black fans that say, why does it have to be about race? Why do you have to mention race? Why can't it just be about boxing? I want you to say the exact same thing to Larry Merchant. Why couldn't he just make it about boxing? Why did he have to inject race when he could have easily just said, is Deontay Wilder the last American hope? But no, he wanted to make a clear distinction from black people and white people in America. You see, he wants to promote the divide that exists in the country, because that's exactly what he just did. He wants to show the boxing world that no, we're not unified, because I'm smiling all day when I see the black guy lose to somebody, no matter what country they're from. This is not America. This is black people versus white people. That's what this is about. Okay, guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and break down the term, where the Great White Hope term came from. The term Great White Hope, it comes from the Jack Johnson era. Jack Johnson, for those of you guys who don't know, He was the first black heavyweight champion of the world. Jack Johnson was one of the best fighters of his era, and he was pummeling all of his opponents, which were white guys. And because of the racism and segregation that existed at this time, the United States Congress, they actually passed a law making it illegal to transport prize fight films across state lines in fear of more white people watching Jack Johnson completely obliterate white opponents. It would cause a huge riot in the country. So because Jack Johnson had been dominant for so long, he had been so successful defending his title, beating white guy after white guy after white guy, white people start desperately looking everywhere to find some white guy to hopefully beat Jack Johnson. And this is when white people, they start begging Jim Jeffries, the former white heavyweight champion who had retired on top. They begged him to come out of retirement. I believe he was retired for like 2 years or something like that. But he was considered the last great white hope to beat Jack Johnson. And of course that didn't happen because he ended up getting knocked out by Jack Johnson. So my point is, in order for Deontay to be considered the last black hope when it comes to beating Tyson Fury, it would have to be a situation where Tyson Fury was doing the same things that Jack Johnson was doing. If Tyson Fury was just fighting nothing but good black fighters and he's just knocking them all out left and right, and you got black people trying to pull Deontay Wilder out of retirement or something like that because you're thinking he's the only one that has a chance against Tyson Fury, that would be more of a hope type of situation. But it's too early to be calling Wilder or any other black heavyweight the last great black hope or whatever, because we don't even know where Tyson Fury is going to be a year from now. I mean, Tyson, he already said that he's about to retire after like what, his next 2 or 3 fights? So he's not going to be dominating the way Jack Johnson did. Jack Johnson, he dominated the heavyweight division for 7 years once he got the title. Now that Tyson Fury is the champion, he's probably only going to fight about maybe 3 more times before he retires. So at the end of the day, this was just Larry Merchant's way of saying, take that, you black bastards. Larry Merchant, he didn't give a damn about that American flag, which is also ironic because you guys remember the Colin Kaepernick situation where you had all these racist ass fans claiming that they love the American flag so much and how dare somebody not stand up and pledge to it. But they show no loyalty to that flag when it's a black person that's representing it. I mean, you know, this is not just in boxing. I mean, this is what happened here with what Larry Merchant said is a microcosm of what happens all across the country. You guys remember the Dream Team, the basketball Dream Team, how they were dominating everyone in the Olympics. And then it was that one game they had where they were upset and they lost to a European team. And when they lost to that European team, the white American fans, they jumped up celebrating as if they had just won the gold medal match. And this was big news, by the way, because no country had ever did that in the Olympics. No fans from any country had ever jumped up to celebrate the other country beating their own country. So when those white fans did that on camera, it made international news because those white fans' behavior shocked the whole world. It's crazy because Deontay Wilder, he calls himself the Bronze Bomber, which obviously he got from the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. And we all know Joe Louis, he was known for going up against Max Schmeling. He lost to Max Schmeling in the first fight. He beat him in the rematch. Max Schmeling was a German fighter. He was a German fighter, and the perception was he was a Nazi because this was at the time that Hitler was in power. But Max Schmeling, he always claimed that he was never a Nazi. In fact, he ended up becoming good friends with Joe Louis after he lost to Joe Louis. But I bring this up to say this. When Joe Louis was fighting against Max Schmeling, it was always looked at as he was fighting against the Nazis. He was fighting against Hitler's Nazis. The difference from Joe Louis and Deontay Wilder is, unfortunately for Wilder, he has to fight against the Nazis in his own country. So that's a lot of weight to carry. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. But before I do, I wanna give a shout out to my man, Nate Drink. I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe to his brand new YouTube channel. He does videos on all the sports, boxing. He even does recaps on battle rap events, and he's a 10-year Marine vet. And if any of you guys are trying to build your YouTube channel, you're trying to get some more subscribers, go ahead and contact me at DantesBoxingNation@gmail.com. Or if it's something you're trying to... That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.